101 review. Book 101 is all about the books that I read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. She is a multi passionate writer, creator, entrepreneur, no other than Miss Sarah Asley.
Thank you so much.
Welcome to
It's
Book 101, Miss Sarah. And can you please introduce more about yourself?
sure. Late 20s, multi passionate content creator, writer, and entrepreneur based in Florida. I have a Substack currently that I just launched recently called Enter the Void, and I'm working on my first book that I hope to publish within a year or so. Fingers crossed. It'll be in the fictional category. I also own a copywriting agency called Portal Copy Co., which is more of a business side where I help clients share their brand story. And yeah, that's me so far.
Yes, Miss Sarah Asley, thank you so much for sharing your talents to the world.
Thank
And we are
you.
looking forward for your upcoming fiction novel. So let's talk
Thank
about
you.
a semi-fiction newsletter that you're doing on Substack. What is a semi-fiction newsletter and how does it differ from other types of newsletters?
That's a good question. And I kind of, in my head, when I was thinking of a topic for a Substack newsletter, I wanted to fuse fiction with real life in a way that made sense to people who enjoyed fiction and also needed maybe, I don't want to say self help, but they maybe needed some inspiration or advice sort of weaved in. And I thought, what better way to do that than blend it with Enter the Void? A lot of people that I've spoken with often use the phrase that they feel like their mind's in the void or they're thinking into the void. And it has a very real connotation, but you can also spin it in a way that's fun and fictional and create like a world around it. And that's kind of where my mind was when I thought of semi fiction. But yeah.
Yes. So, what are the key elements that make a semi fiction newsletter engaging?
Yeah, I think there has to be an element of world building, especially leaning on the fiction end of things. Fiction is all about creativity and imagination and bringing that to life some way. So, definitely a world building aspect. And then on the other half, where the semi comes in, there is real life takeaways. So, something that you can actually take away from the fiction or from the story or the world that you're engaging in that can help improve your own life or inspire you in some way. So the value proposition or just the mission of the newsletter is really to make you laugh or lament in less than 5 minutes. So they're very short reads, but I really want people to feel something when they read it and feel like they resonated with the world and that they could take something out of it and you know take action in their own life or just see a different perspective on something real life related, if
Yes.
that makes
So,
sense.
makes sense. So, how did you choose your theme or central concept for your newsletter?
Yeah, the overarching theme of Enter the Void is an idea I've been playing with for a long time. It's like I mentioned, it's something that I've heard other people speak on. Like they feel like their thoughts go into the void. They feel like they're existing in some void where, um, but yeah, been an idea in the back of my head that I just kind of have been toying with on how to bring that into existence. And
Mm.
honestly, I don't have a perfect answer for that. It was really just an idea that I kind of let come to me and just take its own life. Like it took me a few weeks, honestly, of just kind of meditating on it and writing down the idea about it and playing with different ideas on how I could bring it about. Originally, I think I was going to do Enter the Void as a book or um, like a short ebook or something. But Substack has become very relevant in the writing community, and I thought it'd be a great idea, honestly, to just jump on Substack too and connect with writers that way.
So, Miss Sarah, what audience that you target for your semi-fiction newsletter?
I target anyone who likes fiction. Number one, you have to enjoy fiction, and you also have to have some type of self development aspect about you. Someone who also just has a curiosity about them. A lot of my newsletters are tied back to human experiences and just things that we think or we go through or internal struggles that we might have spun in a fictional way. um, but someone who's definitely seeking something, I would say. I don't
Yeah,
have an exact you know age, gender, anything like that. You can be anyone as long as you have this sort of like values, I would say.
certainly.
That makes sense.
Of course.
Yeah.
If you like the writing of Miss Sarah, please go visit on Substack. So, how can you balance the fact and fiction effectively in your content?
That's a great question. I'm only 4 posts in right now, so so yeah, I'm still figuring that out. But I do have sort of a back end process, so to speak, when I'm writing the newsletters to make sure that there's a takeaway. So as I'm going through the as I'm writing the newsletter, I guess as I'm drafting it, I have a checklist, and I read back through it and I kind of compare it with the checklist, and I say, does this newsletter fit the mission of what I'm trying to do here? Is there a real life takeaway somewhere in there? And it could just be a small section in the newsletter, but as long as it's there, I feel like it achieves the mission. As I create more newsletters, I'd love to play with that. And like, that's a great question, honestly, something I need to think about too. But as long as it's there in some way, I think it checks that part of the process off the list. Yeah, that's good. That's a good question.
So, Miss Sarah, let's talk about the writing and storytelling of your
Sure.
newsletter. How do you create a compelling characters for your semi-fiction newsletter?
I have one, actually, that's funny because I have one main character right now, and then the reader is also a character. So the main character is the Void Keeper, and it is, as if you're looking at the screen right now, it says a welcome note from your Void Keeper. So that's actually me.
Yes,
Yeah.
welcome note.
Yeah, that's actually me. And I've had some people like respond back and like refer to me as the Void Keeper, which has been kind of cool, and like grateful for that just as people are playing into the story. But and then the readers themselves I call Void Dwellers, which is kind of funny because people who resonate with the void, they feel like they are like part of it or navigating themselves through it or whatever. But yeah, so it's really two characters right now. I have been thinking about how to bring in different characters. If you have any ideas, I'd love to know too. That'd be fun.
That would be great. So,
Yeah.
what storytelling techniques work best for your blending reality and fiction?
Yeah. Hmm. In terms of storytelling techniques, I lean into my own experiences, which has been very helpful. And I also try to bring in, so I guess to back it up, maybe there's a
Yes.
process. Yeah, sorry. No, there's a process that I have started practicing, which is really similar to morning pages. I don't know if you've heard of that, but I think it's a part of the artist's way where you just kind of stream of consciousness brain dump like in the morning, like 3 pages or so. Well, I kind of have my own spin on it. Did it unintentionally before I knew what the morning pages was, but at night specifically, I'll set a timer for 5 or 10 minutes, and I'll just stream of consciousness brain dump into a Google document. And those brain dumps are with a fictional angle. So I'm trying to practice writing, like, I guess, flash fiction almost, like just allowing the story to flow and the story to develop um, in a stream of consciousness way. And a lot of those brain dumps have actually been the basis for how I tell the story in the newsletter, which has been really helpful because I already have a lot of it written from the stream of consciousness sort of brain dump. And it just translates over, and I just kind of fill it in. I try to fill the gaps with my checklist. Like, are there elements of the void mentioned? And is the takeaway there? So that's kind of my process right now in terms of storytelling.
Should your newsletter follow a serialized story format or standalone pieces?
Ooh, that's good. Oh, what do you think?
I think it's good if it's serialized for me, yeah.
Yeah. You like
Because you,
serialized fiction?
yes, you will continue and continue and continue. There's no
Yeah,
ending, don't you
that's
think?
true. Yeah, that's true. I would like to maybe make it serialized if I can figure out a way to spin it that way, because I guess also in my head the void is this never ending thing. Like, there's not really a into it. I could probably serialize it and just drag it on. Like, not drag it on, but like just continue the story and the narrative like forever, I guess.
True.
Yeah.
So,
So that's fun.
so my next question is, how do you maintain continuity and consistency across multiple issues for your series?
Yeah. Um, Being consistent and creating that consistency across multiple issues comes with just having a trained, well, part of it comes with having a trained eye for like noticing the similar themes and the structure, perhaps. But it's also been helpful for me to have a written, documented checklist to go through for each issue to make sure every issue hits the same standards, I guess. If that's standards, I don't know if that's the right word, but it hits the same points. For example, there's one part of my checklist, and this is a checklist I use for each issue to make sure it's consistent. There's a question that asks, is there a mention of the void? So I look at that, and then I go back and look at the issue, and I'm like, did I mention any of the world building terms like the void? And if I did, then I check that off. And then that's kind of how I maintain that consistency through the issues. And also referencing back to my vision and mission for the newsletter has been helpful. Because sometimes as we're writing anything, it can be easy to lose that mission or lose like the point of it, I guess. Like, what is the actual point? So I try to reference that routinely.
Yes, indeed. So let's talk about the design and format of your newsletter.
Yeah.
What are the best platform for publishing and distributing a semi-fiction newsletter?
Substack.
For
for
sure.
yeah, for sure.
Number
Substack.
one.
Also, Beehive has become really popular. I'm not. Do you know about Beehive?
No, not yet.
No. Beehive is becoming a really popular newsletter platform. Beehive doesn't have the community aspect that Substack does, which um, can be a pro or a con.
Yes.
But Beehive has a lot of advanced metrics and different features that's there's just pros and cons to both. You'd have to figure out what your goal is with your newsletter if you wanted to start one or publish your book through a newsletter format, which that's also become popular, and thanks to Substack that's been possible. But yeah, those are two contenders I would recommend.
Highly recommended. Just like Riverside and StreamYard, they are competitor.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how should you structure each issue for readability and engagement of your newsletter?
Mm. First, I would ask, what is the goal of the entire newsletter? Like, what are you trying to accomplish? Um, because in mine, in the first, well, in the beginning, I try to tie it back to the void somehow, and just with the value proposition of getting some type of takeaway. But in terms of formatting, I would say definitely lead with a very powerful statement, a powerful question, and then intro your topic, and then definitely lead with like the biggest like takeaway possible, almost in like an inverted pyramid structure, I'd say. But really, that's very subjective. A lot of people do it differently, and depends on your also your writing style and your strengths. Some people do it differently. Um, I like to lead with a powerful statement. And also, I guess this also goes back to your question about how I create consistency across my issues. Except other than this one you're looking at right now, I think this was my first one. But every subsequent newsletter starts off with Dear Void Dwellers, and then it gets into the issue. So every issue begins the same way. Kind of like a, yeah, if you click any of the ones that are numbered, you'll see it
Uh,
says Dear
four,
Void Dweller. Sure, you
dear
can click
boy.
number 4 or 5.
Number four. Number two. Let's hear the
Sure.
game.
That one's been really popular.
Yes, cure the taste of poetry.
Yeah.
Nice.
And it
Dear
says Dear
Void
Void
Dweller.
Dweller. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. I
So
try to
this
include an image too.
in every newsletter that you're doing.
Yeah. And I always sign it off the same. It says the void has spoken right before the um yeah, it says the void has spoken. So that's how I sign off every issue.
Yes, there's a consistency and
Yeah.
you know pattern in everything. There's a pattern. Even the universe have a pattern, right? So we need a
It
pattern too.
does.
Yes, even on my
Yeah.
podcast, I do have a pattern. I usually my ending and my first intro.
Yeah.
So,
And that's
Miss,
important.
yes, very, very important. You have a pattern and everything. As I said, even the universe, even the solar system have a pattern. If you go outside your pattern, you will be what? Nothing.
Yeah,
You
that's
will be a
true.
mess. So, let's talk about marketing and audience growth. How do you build a grow an audience for your newsletter?
That's a good question and something everyone asks. Um, I have not gained a million subscribers yet. Hopefully, I will. Right now, I'm at
Yes.
15, so that's a good start. I'll take that.
Yes. Hoping for the best.
Yeah, and I'm about, well, 5 issues into the newsletter. I actually started in, I want to say February. So between February and March, I've gained about 15 subscribers. 8 of those subscribers have been directly from Substack. So they found me through the app, through comments, through notes, through me liking their post or their note. And that's been very helpful for growth, which I think the community aspect is what brings a lot of people to Substack, because it's easier to grow than if you just started a newsletter on a different platform and you don't have that existing audience to tap into. But other than those 8 people, the rest have come from people I know in real life and me just sharing my newsletter with them. I've also posted on TikTok and Instagram and X and Blue Sky, I believe. So I try to at least once a week promote it. And I try to promote it on the day that I'm publishing a new issue, just to get that, quick
Response.
visibility. Yeah.
Yes, definitely. So, what would be your short-term and long-term goals in writing on Substack?
Short term, it's a little short term. I guess I would just like to keep going and keep being consistent. But long term, which is really what I've thought about a lot, is I would love to be 200 issues in to my Substack and be able to routinely create something amazing that people can really enjoy and relate to and find themselves in the world of the void. I would eventually like to monetize it, which a lot of people do monetize their newsletters. And I would love to create some type of community, whether that be on Discord or like some group, or just find a way to really bridge the world of the void with real life in some way and bring people together. I think that's my ultimate, like, that's like a long term goal. Short term, keep growing it, start to maybe monetize it, and just keep growing the reader base and use it to promote my book in a year whenever I finally publish it. So that'd be great.
Yes, good luck to your goals, Miss
Thank
Sarah.
you.
Keep up the good work.
Thank
Just
you.
continue. Consistency is the key. So, what will be your advice for those people out there want to write their own story or novels or whatever they want to write on Substack?
Yeah. Wow. I would say just get it out of your head. Just really start writing down your thoughts, get the ideas out. As creative people, I know we kind of are always having ideas, right? Or we're always thinking of new ideas and creativity and all that. But I'd say just get it out of your head and write it down and actually take the action to do it. Um,
Yes.
I thought about starting a Substack for weeks before I actually did it, and that was time I could have spent just doing it. So I would say just really do it. That's
Do it,
what it comes down
people.
to. Yeah.
Yes. Do it. Stop procrastinating. Do it and do it. And
Right.
don't be afraid to
That's my
commit
advice.
mistake. Don't ever,
Yeah.
ever fear to having commit mistake, because mistake make you perfect in the future, in the present. And as I said, it's not totally perfect, but at least you learn from your mistake. And failure,
Exactly.
mistake, failure, all of those stuff. And take the risk. Right, Miss Sarah? So
Exactly.
before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, Food 101, in its fifth season, people, fifth season with Chef Alessandro, one of the specialty chef in one of the five-star hotel in downtown Toronto. So please do listen to our latest episode. We are reading our letter senders all over the world. So please do listen, Food 101, wherever you listen your podcast. So, Miss Sarah, what metrics should you track to measure the success of your newsletter?
I would say open rate is really important for your newsletter because you want people to be reading what you're sending, right?
Yes.
And then if you're seeing consistent subscriber growth, that's if that matters to you, which if you want to grow something sustainable and substantial and treat it, seriously, then I would definitely consider looking at your subscriber growth. But also open rate is super important. So definitely track that. And Substack actually provides stats for each individual issue you publish and your publication as a whole. So that's been helpful.
Miss Sarah Ashley, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge to the world. And
Thank
can you
you.
please invite our listeners to support you on Substack?
Definitely. Please enter the void on Substack. You can find me at itechoesback.substack.com, and that'll take you to enter the void. I'm
Yes,
also
people.
I'm also on social media at Sarah E. Ashley or at Portal Copy Co. for my writing business. So thank you so much.
Yes, people, let's support Miss Sarah Asley because if you support her, more and more and more empowering upcoming books to come. So, Miss Sarah, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
More to come, people. See you soon.